Okay, well, thanks everyone for joining us today. We have a webinar on our new TracerPlus for Windows beta program. Before we get into a live demonstration and question and answer period, I was going to kick it over to Brad. He'd like to go over kind of just a little bit of overview of the product, some of the use cases and stuff that we're excited about with this new release. So with that, I'll just kick it over to him.
Thanks,
I'll forward to the next slide. No problem.
That sounds great. Thank you, Howie, and thanks everybody for attending today. I was looking through, the customers that were beta customers and those that registered today to get a sneak peek of what's coming around the corner. And I saw a lot of familiar faces, some that have been with us since the beginning. For those that don't know, we've been in business 19 years, since April 2000. So next month is 19 years. And, we started out in the Palm OS. We were a mobile software company, and we've kind of, gone into some other things in the IoT world. When we started, mobile phones were relatively unheard of. The Palm Pilot was brand spanking new, and the idea of data collection or barcode scanning on a mobile application was, unknown of. And now we're, 19 years later, and boy, has it changed. My kids barely use a PC. They do most of their work and reading on their phones, and that's where a lot of business is done. So some folks might be asking, why are you guys now developing a PC version of TracerPlus? It seems a little late for that. Well, we have some reasons, and it's really been customer driven, to be quite honest, and they have brought us around, and now I think we see the light. Where we see this going, it's going to replace some very highly vertical, inflexible PC-based apps that may not collect data as well as, a TracerPlus app. Our customers often came to us over the years and said, "Hey, listen, can you put this on a PC?" And we would say, "No, you can, do this, or you can use Excel," and gave them less than adequate solutions. Well, over those 19 years, the number of customers that we've picked up and the number of needs has grown. So we see it replacing, whether it's a highly vertical PC-based app that doesn't fit your exact needs in the way of data collection, or maybe the company went out of business over the last 5-10 years. We see it as a great solution to do those simple data collection apps that are very vertical and niche to what you're doing. It's definitely less expensive than custom programming. So if you need a simple app or even a complex data collection app on your PC, we think TracerPlus may be the right way to go. And our goal here is Howie's going to do a demo and show you how quickly you can spin off little applications. Dan just pinged me. He's listening along with my co-founder, and he just said, "Don't forget to mention now you can emulate and use your mobile applications via the PC version in the demo mode." So it is going to be an emulator that we can start using as well. So we'll add that bullet in there later if anyone needs the PowerPoint. A lot of customers would come to us in the past and say, "Hey, listen, can you put it on, I want to do some barcode scanning at shipping, receiving. We do 1 receipt a day. We have 5 users." And we say, "Well, you're going to need 5 mobile apps that can put them in their hip and go up and do all the work." And they're like, "Well, we really don't have the budget or the need for that, and we don't want to introduce something new. Can't we just do this custom data collection form that we have in mind via TracerPlus via a wedge scanner?" And we say, "No, we can't do that." But now you can. You can set up TracerPlus to do all the neat things you've done with TracerPlus on the mobile phones and integrate a barcode scanner that will wedge or stream data directly into the TracerPlus application. You can parse barcodes. You can do on-command prints. You can do everything you've done on the mobile phone. And Howie added this one for me as we were going through, thinking of all the use cases over the last, 3 months. Sometimes mobile devices, at least guys of my age, don't make sense. We just can't fat finger in all the information. For example, maybe it's an inspection form that has a lot of wildcard fields and a lot of data entry. You just need the keypad on your laptop, maybe. And you don't want to have to introduce, a high-end laptop or one of the more rugged devices out there for another $3,000 that has a keyboard. So you just want to use the PC you have already or a laptop that you're using currently. This may be the great way to go, and you can run it right on Windows. We hear from customers all the time, and internally ourselves, we do a lot of data entry on Excel. With TracerPlus, we can now create an automated data entry form to take advantage of all those flow settings that TracerPlus has that will speed data entry. For example, maybe you have an address you don't want to have to enter, and you don't feel like copy and pasting because that causes all sorts of problems. And we've all done it before. You copy and paste, and all of a sudden you make an error, and it shows up when you're printing labels or something along those lines. Now with the TracerPlus, you can set it up, and you can actually stream that data to Excel as you always did with mobile phones into, Salesforce, whatever it may be. But you could set up this custom process in TracerPlus to really speed the data entry, and we're seeing it already internally. It's really powerful, and it makes it a lot easier for the user to just pull up this little application and start entering data, and it goes right into their system wherever they need it. The other thing, which kind of goes hand in hand, and I led into it, is it's an add-on to existing apps. A lot of applications have very, I would say, archaic ways of getting the data in. It's all wildcard fields, no real flow to them, no drop-down menus even sometimes, and it's a slow process. Everybody, again, enters data all day long. If you're using Salesforce, if you're doing inspection forms, it would be so nice to automate these things so you could add a drop-down menu that meets your exact needs. Maybe you want some validation to make sure you don't enter wrong data. Maybe it's a 5-digit number that you have to enter in one field and a 20-digit number you have to enter in another field, and people mess those up, and no one ever built the validation into it. Well, TracerPlus, now we can do that, and we can stream that data so it resides in your back-end software system. This is really from our customers. We have a lot of beta users and a lot of excitement that have actually gone out and pre-purchased licenses, so they're going to get their licenses later today, and they can start using fully registered versions of TracerPlus PC. Shipping and receiving applications that will automate or make it easier to print labels on demand. Scan the barcode on a job number, it's going to look up the job number and flow all that information into that pre-existing system, and then allow them to print on demand out of a TracerPlus form to their label printer. And finally, one that even us, we have internal forms that we use, and we're already using it to replace these internal forms. And I put an example together. I go to some of these seminars and I get a little crazy because I want to get metrics on, how we're working and, what's efficient and what's not efficient and what's causing us to slow down. As a development company in New York, we have to be really efficient. We're competing on a worldwide stage. We bill ourselves as the most affordable mobile application development tool and now PC application development tool. So we have one of the world's highest cost of living. So we have to be really efficient in everything we do. So Howie, if you could just flip to the next screen. I went to the seminar and they said, hey, listen, interruptions are the biggest source of inefficiency in an organization. And, they can cost your company, depending on the size, millions of dollars a year to hundreds of thousands to tens of thousands of dollars. They estimated that each interruption an employee gets costs them a minimum of 12 minutes. So if I go in and I say hello to Howie, hello to Joe, hello to Kristen, hello to Leah, as I'm walking into the office, I just cost us 40 minutes of work time. Now, I don't know how true the 12 minutes is, and I think it's important to say hello to my fellow employees, but I said, why don't we start collecting this metric? So I talked to my development team, and I said, hey, guys, can you guys put this on a mobile phone? And they were all like, no one's going to pick up their mobile phone and then enter this information when they're working on their PC doing some programming, and this is really meant for the programmers because they get interrupted. So then I said, hey, guys, why don't we use the beta version of TracerPlus PC? So I'm going to leave it at that, and I'll let Howie show you a little bit of how this works. But it's a great way to replace a little paper form that, in the past, we would have said, okay, we'll just put it in a paper form, and we'll give it to HR at the end of the week, and they'll aggregate all the information, and we'll see how many hours we wasted via interruptions. With this, we can set it up via TracerPlus Connect. It's going to send that data right to an Excel sheet that Leah has on her PC, and all day long, she just sees the numbers coming in of the interruptions, and at the end of the week, we get a report and say, oh, look, we had this many interruptions. And Howie will show some of the interesting things. We have the office dog that causes a lot of interruptions. Some very friendly sales reps interrupt a lot. we learned a lot about ourselves, but we made it really simple to collect the data with this new tool. Just another important note, just to make it sure it gets out there. This is a subscription model product. It's our first foray into subscription. It's where we're going in 2019. We're only making TracerPlus PC available subscription-based. It should cost a lot less upfront than our perpetual licenses. And in the long run, we think it's just going to be a lot more efficient for especially PC-based users because of the need to switch out PCs a little more frequently than, our more traditional rugged terminal users. We are, though, going to introduce over the summer a mobile version of our subscription policy. And it's going to also be very appetizing for our resellers and our bigger enterprise customers, because they'll have a portal that they can go in and see all their users. They can deactivate and activate versions of TracerPlus, so they can keep an accurate head count of the number of the licenses they have in the field. And then hopefully in the long run, save everybody a lot of money by not paying for maintenance agreements on, terminals that aren't being used anymore. With that being said, I was supposed to talk for 5 minutes. It looks like I went for around 10. I apologize. Howie, it's all yours.
Sure, thanks, Brad. So yeah, again, thanks everybody for joining us today. We're excited about this release here and excited for today, especially to get it up on the website for you guys so that you can go ahead and download and trial this. So this is kind of a fun application that we set up here with this internal use. I'm going to actually show you the application and deploy it to a PC-based TracerPlus client here. But first, just maybe a little bit of an overview about the product. Basically, it's a TracerPlus client that'll run on a Windows-based PC. So really what we tried to do is take the same engine that we have for both iOS, Android, and Windows mobile-based devices and just support this additional operating system. And you can take those same applications that you've created for those other platforms and deploy them to a PC. So really, to get up and running, you can take the same projects that you've developed in the past, deploy those same exact projects to this PC and use it in just the same way, minus maybe the mobility of an Android or an iOS-based device. On top of that, you can just build it into, like Brad mentioned, a bunch of different applications that make more sense for a terminal application. Maybe a Windows mobile or Android iOS device doesn't make sense for certain things. And in the past, we've kind of said you can use maybe a tablet, a larger tablet running maybe an Android operating system to develop applications like this. But it still introduces different problems. You may need a keyboard to add on to it for quicker data entry. They may already have a workstation at particular locations that they want to utilize this data collection process for. And now this makes much more sense to deploy to that type of application. So a workstation type application where you have more real estate on the screen, you have a keyboard for data entry and things like that. You can also, like Brad touched on, you can hook up fixed dummy scanners to this TracerPlus application. So being as you don't have a barcode scanner built into your PC, I think probably many of you saw the video that went out. You can go ahead and just hook up a dummy barcode scanner to this and then scan into the application just as you would with a mobile device, but on a PC. And I'll actually go ahead and show that in just a minute here as well. And finally, just to mention again, is a subscription-based model. So the application, when you're first logging in, will present you with a login screen so that you can log in with your credentials, capture that information with the data that you're collecting with the PC-based app, and then sync it to and from all of the pre-existing databases and systems that we've always supported in the past. So that's also a very important point to note. This application can latch on to existing systems using our TracerPlus Connect product. So if you want to extend the data collection process for an existing application, you can do that. Maybe, like Brad mentioned, you have an old application that hasn't been updated in a while. Maybe the developer is no longer with your company. Or maybe the development team that made it for you no longer is around. So you want to improve the data collection process for that application. Well, you can still use that application, build in a new UI, custom UI that's up to date and leveraging different technologies like barcode scanning and RFID, and attach into that system using our TracerPlus Connect product. So you can kind of refresh and renew applications where this workstation type setup makes sense. So just before I jump into the live demo, I'd just like to mention about what the beta users get after the webinar today. Well, we will be posting this up to our website, so you'll be provided with a new link for TracerPlus Desktop. Basically, it's just an update. It'll go from 10.1 to 10.2 for the beta. and it really just adds a new deployment option to the deployment screen and deploy some images slightly differently, but nothing that anyone would have to worry about. But you'd want to update to the latest version of TracerPlus Desktop. Finally, we'll also provide you with a installer for the PC app, which you would just run after you install Desktop, and that installs TracerPlus for the PC. And then I'll go through in a minute and just how you can deploy your projects and things like that in a live demo here. Finally, for anybody that's purchased the beta, we'll provide an account ID with your username and password. So we'll send that out to you. I'm going to show you just in a second here how you would use that, but you'll get that alongside of the installers. The installers do allow you, as always, other than our iOS platform, allows you to do trials, so you can download, install the beta, and run a trial, which limits your syncing of data. But that will be sent out for people that haven't purchased the beta program. Okay, so with that, I'll go into a live kind of demo here and show you everything as it works. So Brad touched on this interruption counter application, and really it's a quick way of creating something for a PC that, you know, as you're working, you'd be able to fill this out. So again, it makes more sense, this type of application, than kind of whipping out your mobile phone, putting in your, when you're distracted, probably then getting distracted while you're on your mobile phone. So it makes more sense that it's on your PC, and as you're doing things, you can just go ahead and enter those things. So I'm going to go ahead and actually deploy this to my PC-based app. So with that, I'll go ahead and open up TracerPlus. So you'll see you'll have a new TracerPlus 10 option inside from your start menu after you install the application. It's going to start up, and it's going to look very similar to our Android and iOS-based devices. It starts up and immediately presents you with this try it screen. So just like the mobile device, I will actually just, to start, I'm going to jump into the try it, and you'll notice all of the applications that come with the Android and iOS platform are available, the sample applications here. And you can go ahead and use these. You could actually jump in, and you can see it looks just like what you have on Android or iOS. You could go ahead and enter some data here. Let's just go ahead and put my name. The flow controls are all in, so if you hit enter, it immediately jumps to your next field. You can go ahead, and I have a dummy scanner hooked up to this device here. I can scan a barcode. You can see that the cursor jumped down to the part name. I can go ahead and name it. I can fill out this form just as I would on an Android device, and it has all the flow controls of the standard TracerPlus on a handheld. So you can see it just saved that record to the database. If I were to go back to view data, I can see the data that I just entered onto the handheld, and really you can just go ahead and use this as you do with the normal version of TracerPlus. So all of those sample applications are available here, fire extinguisher and so on. So again, it behaves just the same way as the iOS device. It's now just an additional supported operating system here for in a Windows environment. So let's go ahead now. I'm actually going to go ahead and log in through my subscription here. So to do that, I go up to the Tools Preferences dialog, and the first thing I just need to do is enter my account name. So I set up one called TP-beta, and I'm going to go ahead and hit close to this. And when I do that, it basically just refreshes the application and brings me to the TracerPlus login screen. So this is where I can go ahead and enter my credentials to log in. So I'm going to go ahead and enter heckman@tracerplus.com and my password, and go ahead and hit login. So now I'm actually logged in, and if I were to use this application here, now I'm out of that trial mode. I'm completely registered for the lifetime of the account that I have set up through TracerPlus.com here, and I can go ahead and start syncing and using this application as needed. So really the first thing that I want to do is go over to TracerPlus Desktop, and I want to deploy this interruption counter to the mobile device, the PC-based TracerPlus here. So what I do is just as I do for Android, iOS, or anything like that, I go ahead and hit the Build Deploy option. You'll notice on the new version of TracerPlus Desktop, it has a Windows selection from the platform dropdown. I'm just going to go ahead and select that and hit Deploy. That'll actually just build the project. And then just as I do on Android, iOS, or Windows Mobile, if I go to the menu within TracerPlus Desktop, hit Download Project, refresh my project list, I can see all of the projects that I've developed here on TracerPlus Desktop. I'm going to go ahead and select Track My Interruptions and hit Download. When you download, the application will detect that a project change was made, so I'm going to go ahead and hit Refresh. And you can see it refreshed my application to match exactly what I have created in TracerPlus Desktop. So I'm going to go ahead and log in again with my credentials. And you can see I have my interruption counter just as I have it in the background. If I were to jump in here and go ahead and select this, I now have a PC-based interruption counter. So I can go ahead and select what interruption was made, a meeting made by, say, Captain Picard, and whether or not it was good reason or a bad reason, I can go ahead and select that. And when I do that, it's saving this record, and I can go ahead and select a bunch of these to go ahead and save them into this application. It lists them down below, so it's just a simple session that I've created just like I have done in the past for TracerPlus. Just now it's on this Windows PC here, so I can say this is a bad reason. So now I'm saving and building out these records on the handheld. I can save this data. I can jump back to my view data form, and I can see the data that I've collected here with the different interruptions that I've had for today. And it's all captured just as it normally is within TracerPlus Desktop. Okay, so I mean, I just deployed the same type of application that I could to iOS or Android. I was going to really quickly create a simple application to show you the barcode scanning again here before I jump back out of the live presentation here to talk with any questions that you guys have. And it just does bring up a good point here. I see a question has popped up in the toolbar. Immediately after the demo here, we will have a question and answer period, so we'll try to get to as many of those as possible. Just bear with me for 1 second while I just go through another deployment here. But now, so I'm going to go ahead and take my application and move it kind of over to the side and create something from scratch. So just as you normally would within TracerPlus Desktop, I'm going to create a new project. I will call this one Workstation Tracking. I don't know, something that might suit a barcode scanning application that we'd like to set up. So it's Workstation Tracking. My session is going to be just capture barcodes. So I'm going to have a dummy scanner set up for this application. I'm going to go ahead and just do a barcode. I wanted a date time field and a user. I want to capture also the person that's logged in with their credentials through TracerPlus.com. So I'm going to go ahead and set the user to be a variable field. I'm going to set the date time to be a date time field. The barcode field, I'm just going to do an a go-to field to be the barcode field because I want the cursor to remain there. And I'm going to do an auto submit. Actually, I'm going to log this into a grid control. So I'm going to go ahead and do a go-to of the barcode there. So a very simple application setup. I'm just going to allow the user to scan barcodes and build that out into a grid control. So I'll line some of these things up for you. So you can see as I'm building this out, it's done in just the same way that you're all familiar with the regular TracerPlus Desktop. Really on the desktop side, there isn't many changes to the application other than the deployment process. It really just allows you to create the same apps and deploy them to this device and use them in the new format, the new platform. I'm going to go ahead and just add these columns to this grid control that I have already created for my fields. I'm going to set this up to be a cache grid, so you guys don't have to follow along too depth here, but I want to set up a dummy scanner to scan into this grid control. So let me go ahead and hook up my fields. So I'm hooking up the barcode field to the barcode field on the form. I'm hooking up the date time field to the date time and the user from the user field. All right, this is just going to be very simple. I'll deploy it in 1 second. So we'll set the binding up here. So basically the end idea is I'm going to be scanning barcodes into this field, and it's going to build out all of the barcodes on this form, and then I'm going to save that data at the end so that I can capture all of this into my TracerPlus session. Okay, so I think I have everything set up here. I have each one of these fields linked to a field on the form. I'm going to change my submit button to a grid post. And once I do that, I can go ahead and deploy this. And there we go. Grid control is 13. All right, so I've got a simple form here again with barcode, date, time, and user. Every time I scan a barcode, it's just going to populate this grid control, and it's going to do that in this Windows environment. So I could deploy this to an Android device as well if I'd like, and I can then use the mobile device to scan it with a built-in integrated scanner or maybe some add-on for that particular platform, or I can now use this dummy scanner. So what I'm going to do here is just go ahead and hit F7 to do my deployment. I'm going to select the Windows environment again and hit deploy. That deployment is going to build the project, and now on the mobile side, I'm just going to do the same thing. I'm going to go to download project, refresh my project list. I now have the new project available called Workstation Tracking. I'm going to download that application. Again, it's going to see the change detected that I have a new project. I'll hit refresh and log in again. Okay, so I logged into my application. You can see I have my one form here for capturing barcodes. I'm going to jump into this form. It's pre-filled out the date timestamp for today, and I have the TracerPlus.com login that actually is now validated against your subscription. So you're actually capturing who's using the form as well. So in this case, then I can just take the couple of barcodes that I have set up here, and I'm just going to scan them to a dummy scanner. So I'm basically just grabbing them and putting them in front of this dummy scanner hooked up to my PC. And I am submitting those into that grid control there. So you can see it's adding that to the grid control. This scanner that I'm actually using now is also a RFID scanner. So you can scan RFID tags into the fields. So you can see as I scan different barcodes here, it's adding them to that grid. And then when I'm all done, I can go ahead and hit submit, and it saves that data to the TracerPlus database. And at any point, I can jump out just as you're used to on the handheld side, and I can see that data. And now I'm scanning all the same barcodes over again, so the beeps were a little off there from what I collected. But you can see I'm just using this dummy scanner here hooked up to my workstation. I'm capturing that data into my TracerPlus forms, and now I'm using it in this workstation form factor as opposed to Android or iOS or the older Windows mobile type devices. So really, that's kind of what I wanted to show you today as far as a live demo of the product. Again, you guys can go ahead and download this after the webinar and trial all of this stuff. So again, if you're familiar with TracerPlus, you should get up and running pretty quickly. And also set up syncing in just the same way you've done in the past with the other platforms. The syncing works exactly the same. You're mapping your forms that you've created for the PC OS now to your backend database, SQL Server, Oracle, or anything like that. So with that, I wanted to jump back out to the PowerPoint. And if we have any questions, bear with me one second. PowerPoint back up. Okay, we'll swap this. All right, so let me try to get to the question panel. Okay, question here about will your applications continue to work after your subscription ends? Yes and no. The applications will still be deployed to the PC. However, the applications will be limited based on then trial limits. So we've always in the past for all of the different platforms for iOS, for Windows Mobile and Android, the limits have been you can use the application. However, the amount of data being moved to and from the handhelds in the other case, and now the PC base is going to be limited based on that trial mode. So it's going to block you from using the application, completely in the amount of data that's going back and forth to the PC application and your backend database. So that restriction will be reapplied if the subscription ends. I think I heard Brad there. I don't know if you wanted to elaborate on that.
Yeah, and I just wanted to, talk to this point a little bit because it is a change in our licensing model. We thought it was very important, especially on the PC-based app, to have a subscription model for multiple reasons. First, many of our customers have requested a subscription model, but more importantly, the perpetual license model is a little tougher on the PC side for us, the way we currently work with a lot of laptops and things like that, or the way this app's going to be deployed. So we're really excited about it. We think it's going to be a cost saver in the long run because, again, as we consolidate license agreements to a lot of our customers, we notice they're licensing and paying for things that they're not using. So as the portals develop, which is phase 2 of this, you're going to actually see your used devices, so you'll be able to quickly decommission, let's say, those devices. And, it should reduce your maintenance costs, which people are currently paying for, and hopefully save everybody that is actively using the application and actively using our services a lot of money. This is a good question, Howie. What RFID devices are compatible?
Yeah, so there's actually 2 people that have asked the same question here about RFID devices that are compatible. So to start, a lot of the dummy scanners, at least on barcode and RFID, they connect via USB to your PC. So they actually connect sort of as keyboards. to the application. So out of the box, we'll support any one of those devices that are connected via keyboards. What we will be adding going forward is native support for those devices so that it builds in to TracerPlus PC the different reading and writing capabilities that the RFID reader would support. I'm using a Cipher Lab, just a dummy RFID and barcode kind of combination scanner here. And both the RFID and the barcode will be keyboard entry into TracerPlus. So you can use both of those technologies into it. So the short answer is yes, you can, or we can support many different types that connect as keyboards, but going forward, we'll be looking to build out the full integration for those different devices so that you can do writing to the tags as well. That does lead into another sort of good thing to mention, I guess. TracerPlus for PC supports all of the printing capabilities that you have on Android, Windows Mobile, and iOS. And that includes both printing labels, like Brad mentioned before, but also printing labels and encoding RFID tags. So through this application here, you may not be able to initially write to tags using the dummy scanners, but if you hook up a RFID printer, you can print labels and encode them with TracerPlus out of the box. So you can do that writing in that way. So you can both print the label and encode the tag using TracerPlus, and you can do that in a pretty convenient way, we'd say, with TracerPlus for PC. Fill out that information using your flow controls, and it immediately spits out an RFID encoded tag. So that would be an option for anybody looking to do RFID tag writing. It's actually an RFID printer as opposed to kind of one of these dummy scanners, which at the moment is for data collection purposes, scanning barcodes and the RFID tags. So yeah, that's a good question.
Okay, I'm going to try to mix two questions in one, Howie, and then I'll let you take over the question about the demo and what they saw of Connect. So if anyone's interested in TracerPlus PC and how the data connectivity works into pre-existing systems, the first step is always talk to your reseller or your TracerPlus sales representative, and then they can find the internal sources or resources that you can use. As an add-on to that, those familiar with our products, they understand that Clearstream just introduced endpoints and a REST API. Those features are going to hopefully roll out to TracerPlus over the next year. So that'll even give us more data connectivity options that will be integrated into TracerPlus Connect that you'll have, availability to, and should make your integration into those pre-existing systems easier. And then someone wanted just to confirm how the licensing worked. You're going to be able to run perpetual and subscription licenses of any device side by side within your Connect main instance. So you'll see, you could have an iOS tablet, you could have an Android tablet, you could have Android barcode and RFID terminals, and then you could have PCs and laptops all connecting through TracerPlus Connect and working side by side. And hopefully, you're going to be able to, after utilizing the tool, create one application and deploy it to all those devices. So you're not going to have to develop it 4 different times for the 4 different OSs we support. Okay, Howie, I'll switch back to you.
Yeah, and I mean, that's a good point with this platform. It's really an additional platform in the whole TracerPlus suite. So you can deploy those same projects to an Android device, iOS device, Windows Mobile, or Windows PC. And actually going forward, we're looking to support Mac and maybe Linux in this platform as well. But you can deploy those same applications across the board, or you can deploy different applications. So maybe at a certain dock door, you have a PC terminal that you'd like to set up some type of shipping receiving application. You can do that to that PC-based terminal. If you then have an inventory application on an Android device utilizing RFID, you can deploy a separate project to that application. And the good thing about all that is you can deploy those different applications, but TracerPlus Connect, the syncing tool, doesn't care which platform is communicating with it. So you have Android, you have iOS, you have Windows PCs. Those can all sync back to this TracerPlus Connect server with different data to different data sources wherever you're sending that data to on the back end. So you can mix and match the platform. It's not all or nothing, all one platform or another. You can add those across the board, and it really will be supported. Okay, question here about, it looked like the data you collected fed into the same fields for both the collection projects and the interruption project. Is that correct? And how does Connect separate the data? So The reason that happened is I deployed 2 separate projects. The first one was the interruption counter, and the second one was my simple barcode scanning application here. Both of them were session 1 on the handheld. So when you deploy a new project from TracerPlus desktop to a handheld, it replaces the project on that handheld, but not the data. So I deployed the interruption counter, and I had saved some records for my interruptions, but then I deployed that simple barcode. And because I was using that same kind of first session of the project, it was saving the data to the same table within TracerPlus. Generally, what somebody would do there is just to delete the data that they've collected in prior sessions, clear it out, basically, before they start collecting with a completely different project. And there's some ways that you can automate that as well. You can have a project that just starts up and clears all the data out, maybe when you go into the form. But yeah, you can. That's just because I deployed the same project or 2 different projects and didn't clear out any data. You'll find that all of the different platforms work that way if you deployed to a Windows mobile device with a couple different projects. And the reason being, we don't want to kind of assume that the data that's on the handheld is just going to immediately be cleared out. We'll leave it there in case you wanted to sync it out, prior to deploying a new project. So I hope that answers your question.
Are there any other questions as we're closing in on the end of the webinar? We just want to make sure we get as many answers out to you that you have questions on.
And I can bring up our contact information, but please feel free to keep sending questions over. We're always happy to answer anything else you guys have.
Yeah, and I'll just encourage everybody to take a look at the YouTube, subscribe to YouTube if you haven't. We're trying to do our best to put a lot of videos, device reviews. I mean, we get a lot of devices from manufacturers, so we try to show you how they work with TracerPlus, what we think of them. So it's becoming a really good resource. We're even using it to send to customers to how something would work. So if you do have questions, we could always fire up a video and show you how something would work. It's really a beneficial tool, so please let us know.
So there's one more question before we go. In a secure area, can you capture data, then later sync in a different area? So yep, you can do that completely. This behaves just the same way as the other platforms. You can collect data locally on your PC. It could be a Windows laptop. You connect data locally on that device. Later on, if you go into a Wi-Fi area or where you have access to go ahead and sync that, you can go ahead and just as you would on a mobile device, as you have in the past with TracerPlus, you can sync that data once you have access to a network or wherever you may need to be that's outside of that secure area. So yep, that's all completely doable within TracerPlus PC as well as the other platforms. Okay, so
we'll wrap it up at this point, Howie.
Sure.
Thanks again for everybody who had made the time in their day. I know everybody's busy to attend. Please feel free to reach out to your TracerPlus representatives if you have any further questions. And we look forward to hearing your feedback on how TracerPlus PC, the beta, works for you. Thanks so much. Have a great day.
Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thanks for watching. If you enjoy our content, be sure to like and subscribe, and visit our channel below for more. You can also find us online at TracerPlus.com or on Facebook, Twitter, or LinkedIn. If you have any questions, feel free to call or email us at any time, and we'll be happy to help.